Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Michael Gummel with Paradigm Technology Consulting. Today we have Mark Horvath from Greenshades who will be walking us through a couple of their solutions. We've been working with Greenshades for many moons now. They have a number of different solutions, primarily around the payroll. Today, Mark will be talking to us about their employee portal and their payroll tax service. Just so everyone's clear, everyone's on mute today. If you do have any questions, please indicate those questions in the chat area, and we will sure to leave time at the end. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Mark.
Hi, this is Mark Horvath. I'm with Greenshades Software. Been with Greenshades for going on 6 years now, almost 6 years. So I'm pretty familiar with all the products that we offer, and I will be going over again our employee portal and payroll tax service solutions. They have a direct integration with Dynamics Great Plains. We also have one-way integration with some other accounting packages, and then a universal integration with other accounting packages as well. But today I'll start off with our employee portal, and starting off with the onboarding module specifically, since your new hire employees would run through this process first. The onboarding module is a fairly new module or new package that we came out with last summer, so summer of 2018. And we've made some updates to it, but I think it works quite well, and it will push back to Great Plains. So it will have your new hire employees go through an onboarding process and actually fill out all of their HR documents that you would typically have them fill out on paper. They'd be able to complete those electronically on our site and submit them for approval. And then once approved, they would get synced back into GP, and it would create that employee card for you. So you wouldn't have to go in there and manually create any of those cards or add any of that information. It would all sync back for you. And so what we're looking at here is our admin website. Your admins would access the site by going to greenshadesonline.com, and they'd be able to log in using an email address and password, and it would take them to the home page initially. But right now I'm under settings under the onboarding over here. There is an application that gets installed on your server. If you're using Dynamics GP, it would be installed on your GP server, and it would integrate directly with GP, and you would schedule it to sync automatically. So it could sync once a day or multiple times a day or once a week, however often you'd like it to sync. You can schedule it to sync that way. You can also manually sync the information by running that sync manually. And it will pull information from GP up to the Greenshades site, and then also any changes made on the Greenshades site would actually be pushed back into GP as well. With the one-way integration, we'll just be able to pull up information. It's not going to push back anything, and then same with the universal integration. The way that this works is you're going to set up a different workflow for different types of employees or different departments. It's really up to you how you want to kind of manage this. You can create a new workflow for every position or a workflow for every department, and then everyone that's hired within that department has to go through this workflow. So you can manage it how you need to and how it best fits your company's needs. I'm just going to edit one of the ones that we already have created here. And the way that it works here is we're going to name our workflow. The default values here are what's going to be assigned to the employee card once it gets created in GP. And there's two spots that you get to adjust this. So you can first kind of set some default settings that most or all of your employees that go through this workflow would get assigned. And then later on, once the employee actually goes through the onboarding process, they're going to get, the admin is going to be able to adjust those default values before approving it. And then once approved, it would sync those in directly to GP. So all of the drop downs here is going to have information that's pulled from GP. So you're going to see all of your departments listed here, all of your classes, pay codes, all of this is going to be pulled from your GP server, and you'll see that listed there. Under required steps, these are the steps that the employee is actually going to go through during the onboarding process. So step 1, they're going to fill out their basic employee info. Step 2, they'll set up their notification options. Then they're going to set up their profile info, which has their like name and address and emergency contacts and stuff like that. They'll set up direct deposit, W-4s. We can do state and federal W-4s now. We have our I-9s, and then we have some custom documents here. You can add as many custom documents as you'd like to this process. The information from the custom documents doesn't actually get synced back to GP. So if there is any information on those documents that you need in GP, you would have to manually put that in. But the rest of the modules will sync information back to GP, or the rest of the forms will. There is also one other one here, which is the W-2 and 1095-C distribution preference. And that basically asks the employee if they would prefer to have a paper copy or if they're okay with having an electronic copy of those forms. So it'll just keep track of what each employee selects. So at the end of the year, when you're ready to print out those forms, you only have to print it for the employees that requested paper copies. So once you have that workflow created, it's going to generate a link here, and that link is what you would send over to that new hire employee. And when they click the link, it'll walk them through the onboarding process to fill out all their documents and create their Greenshades accounts. So you can send this to them ahead of time so they can complete all this before their first day, or if you prefer that they complete all these documents in front of you, you can set up like a kiosk at your company that they would sit down and complete it in front of you. It's up to you how you want to really manage that. But when we click this link, it'll take us into the onboarding page and we can start our onboarding process here. And so this is what your employee is going to see. They would see your company logo displayed over here. They would see your company name displayed here. And the color scheme can be adjusted, so you can pick any color you'd wish here. And when we hit start here, first step is to create the Greenshades login. They are going to use an email address to log in here. So they can use either a personal email or a corporate email, or you can require them to use a corporate email if you'd like. If they haven't been assigned a corporate email yet, they can either start off with the personal email and then change it to a corporate email later, or they can skip this step, and then once they get assigned a corporate email, they can come back and create their login. By skipping, you'll still be able to go through and complete all the documents. You just won't be able to log in until that email address is assigned to you. So once we move forward, so once that account's created, we're going to fill out our basic employee info. So that's just our name, social, address. And then once we move on to the next page, it will be our notification options. So the employee will be able to run through and select how they want to be notified. And they would just type in an email address here. Next, we have our profile setup. So this is where the employee can update their personal information. They can also update this information after they've gone through the onboarding process as well. So they'll be able to adjust their name, birth date, gender, ethnic origin, all of this just by hitting the edit button. Next page, we have our mailing address. This is also adjustable on the website. They'd be able to add in their dependents. The dependent information is used for the benefits module. So if you were going to add the benefits module to the portal, anytime an employee goes through and does the benefits enrollment, it is going to pull the dependent information from this page here. So the employee would be able to add it in here, or if you already have current employees, the current employees would be able to update it on the profile maintenance screen on the portal, which I'll show you here later. We have our emergency contacts here, so you'd be able to add information for that. Then we have our work location. We can verify that's correct. And then the next page here is our direct deposit add-on. So this is a additional module that is accessible from the website as well. So the employee, if they ever have to update their direct deposit information on the website, they can log into the employee portal, open up their direct deposit info, and make updates to it and submit them for approval. And then once approved, it would sync into GP and update for them. And then, of course, for your onboarding, your employees going through the onboarding process, they're going to be setting this up for the first time. So it'll look like this. They'll hit new accounts. They can add as many accounts as they need to. They would input their routing number and account number. We are verifying routing numbers, so we can see that this one is, of course, unknown. If it's a valid routing number, it will show the name of the bank that it belongs to. It will give an error when we try to hit next on this. It'll let us know that the routing number is unknown and ask us if we want to continue. If you have multiple accounts here, it is going to ask how you want the wages distributed across those accounts. So you can put a certain percentage or a certain amount in one account and then everything else in the other. And then once this is approved, it would update in GP and distribute the wages that way through payroll. You can also require employees to upload an image of a voided check here, so you can use that to verify accounts. When they hit choose file here, they'll be able to search their computer for that image and then attach it to this page. So when they submit it for approval, the admin would be able to review that voided check and then choose if they want to approve or deny it. There is another option that admins can use to verify accounts, and that would there's a checkbox that they can check to tell GP to run a pre-note. And then when it syncs into GP, GP would run the pre-note to verify the account as well. So we go on to the next step here. Next, we have our W-4 setup. So we do federal and state W-4s. The first step would be our federal. There's two options that employees can use to fill out their federal W-4s. They can actually fill out the form itself, or they can go through a step-by-step process that will ask them some questions, and then based on their answers, it'll fill out the form for them. So those questions will look something like this: what their filing status is, what is your pay frequency, how many jobs does your household have, how much does your household make, will you be claiming dependents? Will you be claiming other credits? Will you be itemizing? And then will you be claiming adjustments to income? Then once you answer all those questions, it'll fill out the form for you here. And if all that looks good, you can sign off on this, or if you need to make any edits to this information, you can. And then you would just check this box and come down and type in your name to sign off on it. Now the W-4s can also be updated at any time on the portal. So if the employee wants to change their allowances at some point through the year, they can just go into the HR Documents tab, pull up their W-4 and make the adjustment and then submit it for approval. And then once it's approved, it will sync back into GP and update their allowances in GP. Next, we have our state W-4. So it is going to suggest a W-4 based on our work location. And that is pulled from whatever you selected when you're setting up the workflow on the admin side. If for whatever reason the employee thinks they should be filling out a different state W-4, they can click down here and it'll pull up all the other W-4s that we have available. And they'll be able to pull up that form and it'll actually show them the form itself that they have to fill out. So there is no wizard process for the state W-4s. So they would fill out this form and then sign off on it here. And any information that needs to be pushed back to GP will be pushed back to GP from this module as well. Once we complete that, we'll jump over to our I-9. The I-9s kind of have a three-step process that employees, the employees and the admins would go through. The first step, the employee would fill out the I-9 or the basic information on the I-9. So they'd fill out their name, address. If they're a US citizen, they're going to put in their social down here. And then they would type in their name to sign off on this. When they submit this for approval, the admin is going to be able to review the I-9, the employee's information on the I-9. Then they'll also be able to enter in the employee's List A, List B, and List C documents. So they're going to get those documents from the employee. They're going to enter in the information onto the website, and then they can also attach an image of those documents if they'd like to as well. Then the next step after that is going to allow them to run e-verify on the employee, so you can verify that the employee's employment. So when we hit next here we have one of our custom documents. So this one is just a reviewable document. So the employee can review the document and then sign off on it. If it's a fillable document, the employee will be able to fill out the document and sign off on it. Or if you have any reference documents, you can also post those on the portal for employees to see online as well. That wouldn't require any signatures. Once the employee reviews this, they'll just type in their name to sign off, and then that would complete the onboarding process here. So then the onboarding request gets submitted for approval. The admin is just going to log into the admin site. They would come down to the employees tab and come over to onboarding request here. And they'll be able to see any onboarding requests that are awaiting approval down here. We'll just hit view on one of these and we'll verify all of the employee's info. This is where you're going to enter in the employee ID that's going to get assigned to the employee. So they would enter that in, they would verify the information, and then they can come down here. And as I mentioned earlier, they would be able to adjust the values that are going to be assigned to this employee. So you can adjust it for that specific employee. And then once this is approved, the next time a sync is ran, it'll sync that information into GP and create the employee card for that new employee.
So Mark, the employees just don't get to assign their own pay rate there? They have to actually have it approved?
Yes. Yes. So the admin is going to update the pay rate in there and then approve it. That's right. All right. The documents that the employee filled out during the onboarding process are going to get approved one by one under the Documents tab. When you're approving the onboarding request, that's really just creating the employee card in GP, and then you're going to come over to the Documents tab and approve each of the documents that the employee completed. So you'd go in and look at the direct deposit and approve it, then I-9, W-4, and then once each of those is approved, it'll sync information from those into GP as well. All right, and so that's pretty much everything for the onboarding package. I'm going to jump over to the employee portal now and show you some of the other modules there.
Hey, Mark, before you do that, I think we had a couple questions come in, so it might be a good point to hit a couple of these right off the bat here.
Sure.
So a couple of times you've mentioned that the information gets synced to GP. How does that sync actually happen?
So the connector that's installed on the GP server, the application that's installed there, you're going to schedule that connector to run the sync automatically, and it'll pull from the Greenshades site and push it into GP, or any changes that are made on the website will be pushed into GP through that connector. You can also manually run the sync if you prefer to do it that way. You just open up the connector and tell it to run the sync, and it'll push that information into GP.
Okay. Let's see what else we've got coming in here. Oh, there's another one here. Do the approvals get captured anywhere? So I guess they're talking about the admin approvals as they're going through. Does that information get captured anywhere?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do. So if you come over and look at any of the tabs here, really, you'll be able to go down here and see which ones have been approved or denied and when they were approved and reviewed. And I believe it should actually say who approves it. There may be a different report that you can pull up that will show that, but you'd be able to go down and look at those approvals down there.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Sounds good. I think that's all we have right now. So if you want to jump over
Sure.
to the other area.
Okay. So the employees, when they're going to access the employee portal after they've gone through the onboarding process, they're going to go to greenemployee.com, and it's going to take them to this page here. So they're going to enter in your company code here, which is just a unique set of characters that you would set up during the implementation process, and that's going to take them over to your company login page. You can also just give them the link that pops up here, and that'll take them to the same place. But you would have your company logo displayed here, your company name, of course, the color scheme. They are going to log in using an email and password. We do have a mobile app that's free to download on Apple and Android devices. So there's a few different features on the app. It doesn't have the full functionality of the website, but it does allow them to view pay stubs, W-2s, 1095-Cs from the app. If you're using our time entry piece, you'll be able to clock in and out using the mobile app. You can submit time off requests from the app. There is a option that allows you to upload receipts. So if you're using our expense reporting module, the employee will be able to take pictures of receipts using the app, and it would automatically upload to our website. And then from there, the employee would be able to submit the expense report for approval and attach any receipts that they uploaded from the app. And that's pretty much all the features that the app has. Once the employee enters in their email and password, it would take them to the home page, which will look like this. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm going to impersonate an employee. So admins have the ability to log into the employee portal as any employee, or any employee they have access to anyways. And they would just come over here and come down and log into the employee portal as that employee. And then once this loads, it will show us our homepage for the portal. So of course your logo would be displayed here, company name, color scheme can be adjusted. All of the tabs across the top here are basically separate modules. Some of the modules are packaged together or bundled together in a package. And I'll kind of run through what those packages consist of throughout the presentation here. But on the homepage here, we have our tasks and notifications over here. Tasks is going to show anything that's been assigned to the employee to complete. So if there's any documents that they need to sign off on, or if they need to submit their timesheet for approval at the end of the pay period, they'll receive a task for that. Notifications is going to show anything that's been approved or denied by a manager. So if they submit a address change, or if they submit a time off request for approval, or anything else that needs approval, they'll receive a notification once it's approved or denied in there. They should also receive email notifications for that as well. Company bulletin can be used for really whatever you'd like. You can post bulletins for your employees to review here. If you have any company newsletters, you can post those in there. Any announcements for Christmas parties or stuff like that, you can post in there. You can add links to other websites or attach documents to these bulletins, so you can use that for a lot of different things. There is an option that must be turned off for this employee in here that would show the most recent pay stub. It would show a brief summary of the most recent pay stub, and it would just show the a year-to-date info and the current pay stub info on it. And then it would give an option to open up the full detailed view of that pay stub, or the employee can also go up here and go to pay stubs, and that will pull up the pay stub in a full detailed format as well. And I'll show you that here in just a moment. We also have our time clock here. This is the second option that employees can use for the time entry module. And this option works very similarly to the one that's on the mobile app. The employee is going to select their time code, select the department, and then they're going to hit clock in. That's going to start the entry. They would then be given the options to clock out, go to lunch, or transfer department. If they clock out, obviously it's going to end the entry. Go to lunch is going to put them into a lunch time code. So it'll end that entry and then start a lunch entry. And this option is optional. It's not required to be used, but what it does is it allows you to keep track of an employee's lunch hours and how many hours they spend on lunch throughout the pay period. Otherwise, if they're clocking out for lunch and clocking back in, it's a little bit more difficult to track. The transfer department button allows the employee to remain clocked in while switching departments. So they're not going to have to clock out, switch departments, and clock back in. And it's going to track how many hours were worked in each department. The coworkers taking time off is part of the time off module, and it would allow the employee to see other employees that are taking time off and when they're taking time off, so they can kind of get an idea of what to expect. So the first package I'm going to go through is the base package for the portal. It's called our Employee Access Package, and that includes the pay history module, the HR profile module, and then also our direct deposit module, which is under the, it's within HR documents, but it allows the employee to update their direct deposit information. So just like what you saw on the onboarding page, that's that module. That's what that module does. When we pull up our pay stubs here, the employee is going to be able to review their full detailed pay stub. And this pay stub gets generated by pulling in your payroll transactions from Great Plains. So we're going to be syncing up all of your payroll transactions every pay period, and we're going to use that information to create the pay stubs on here. And then once the pay stub is available, the employee is going to receive an email notification. They can also set up text message notifications, letting them know that they have a pay stub available and it's ready for them online. And they'll be able to just log into the portal, pull up their pay stub here. They can download it and save it as a PDF, or they can print it to blank paper. We are going to see a history of their pay stubs in this drop down here, so they can go back and look at previous pay stubs if they need to. We keep a history of the current year and the previous year online by default, and then at the end of every year, last year's stubs are going to roll off unless you pay an additional fee to keep them archived. This module also allows you to post W-2s and 1095Cs. The W-2s are going to automatically get uploaded to our year-end form site once the year-end wage file is created in GP. So we're going to sync those, the information from the year-end wage file up to our year-end form site. It's going to generate your W-2s, and you would be able to make any edits that you need to on the year-end form site. And then when you're ready to, you can push it out to the employee or employees so they'd be able to review it online. The employee should get an email notification letting them know when they have a W-2 awaiting or are ready for them to view, and then they would just log into the website, pull up the W-2. The first time that they come in to look at the W-2, it's going to ask them if they agree to receive it electronically or if they prefer a paper copy. And then again, it's going to keep track of what each employee selects, so you only have to print out the W-2s for employees that request paper copies. So the employee can come in here, they can download it and save it as a PDF, or they can print it to blank paper. The 1095Cs are going to get uploaded a little bit differently. If you're using the ACA tables in GP, we can pull the information from those tables using our tax filing center, and that would sync the 1095Cs up to the year-end form site, and then from there you can make edits to it and then push it out to the portal just like you would with the W-2s. We also have the option to upload the ACA data using an Excel template. So we would provide you an Excel document that you would input all of your ACA information into, and then you would upload it to our year-end form site, and then that would generate your 1095Cs, and then you can make edits and post it on the portal when you're ready to. Next module in that base package is our HR profile module. So this allows the employee to edit their name, address, marital status, emergency contacts, dependents, all that same information that you saw in the onboarding process. They'd be able to make adjustments to that at any time throughout the year by clicking on this tab here. So it's a pretty simple module. And then let's see. And so while we're waiting for that to load, I can break down the other packages that we offer. So the enhanced HR package is going to include the time off, expense reporting, and employee evaluations. Time off module I'll run through here. It allows the employee to submit time off requests for approval. And then once approved, it would actually sync into GP and update their time off balances in GP the next time a sync is ran. It will allow the employee to see their available time off balances. So we are pulling that in from GP. We're not actually doing the accrual of those balances, so that would be accrued in GP first, and then we're going to pull that in here. Okay, I am going to refresh this, just one moment. All right. Once the time off module, or once the time off request is approved, it would push back in there. Okay. Into GP and update the balances there. It would also get added in a payroll batch, so they can process that during payroll as well. So this is what the time off page would look like. They'll be able to see their available time off balances here, and then they would submit a new request by hitting new request there, and they can select their date range, the number of hours they want to use, and then the type of time they want to use, and then they would just hit save, and that then gets submitted over for approval. You would be able to assign who you want to approve those types of requests, so it can go to a supervisor or an admin or a limited admin. It's up to you how you want to manage that. But then once it's approved, it will either automatically sync back to GP, or you can tell it to hold off until the actual date of their request, and then it will sync over and update GP. All right, so also within that package is our expense reporting. Expense reporting will allow employees to submit expense reports for reimbursement. Or if you have employees using corporate cards, they don't require reimbursement. You can also use this to kind of keep track of their spending as well. So the way that it works is during the implementation process, you can create different categories and subcategories that employees are going to use to submit expense reports. And then the employee, whenever they need to submit those, they would just come in here, select the category that they want, and then it's going to open up an expense report. They can name this, so maybe they took a trip to Orlando. They would put in a description here. They can enter in the date that this occurred, or date range that it occurred, and then they can select the different subcategories that should be included in this expense report. So maybe they drove their own car to the airport, and then they paid for their airfare, and maybe they took a cab while they were in Orlando. And they want to add all of these expenses to the same report. They can do so. They would select the date. They would enter in a vendor name, so maybe yellow cab here, and then enter in a description. And then if they have an image of a receipt, if they took a picture of the receipt and they saved it to their computer, they would hit this add receipt, and they would be able to search their computer for that image. If they took a picture of the receipt using our mobile app, it's going to add those receipts into what we call My Greenspace. And you would see another button here that says add receipt from My Greenspace. And when you click that button, it'll open up all the receipts that haven't been used yet and allow you to attach them to this expense report. And then once it's attached to this expense report, it will get removed and deleted from My Greenspace automatically. So you're not going to have like a bunch of receipts sitting in My Greenspace there. And then they're going to enter in the amounts. They would continue on here. If they are using corporate cards and they're not supposed to be reimbursed for it, they're going to check this box saying it's not reimbursable. And that way it doesn't actually push any batch or anything back to GP. But if this is unchecked and it is approved, the next time a sync is ran, it will sync back to GP and create a batch in GP using those business expense pay codes that would be assigned to each of these different categories. And then you would be able to process that batch with payroll like you normally would, and the employee is going to be reimbursed on their regular paycheck. So I know a lot of clients, they reimburse their employees through payables and they would get like a separate check. But the way that our system is going to push back. They would actually be reimbursed through payroll. So yeah, once the employee completes the expense report, they would just come down here, hit submit, and that gets sent over for approval. And then once approved, it would go through the process I just described. All right, the last module in that package is our employee evaluations here. So the employee evaluations allows you to create different types of evals for your managers to complete on the employees under them. So you can create like a new hire eval that gets assigned to a manager to complete on an employee after 90 days of working there, or a 6-month eval or an annual eval. And it's going to keep track of an employee's hire date or adjusted hire date and automatically notify managers when they have reviews coming due. And then the manager is going to come in and they'll log into their account and pull up the review, and they'll see it sitting there on the manager side. And I'm just going to pull up one that's already been completed here. And they'll see the different criteria that they need to evaluate the employee on. And all of this criteria is set up by you during the implementation process. So you're going to type in phone, you would type in a description for that. You're going to adjust the rating scale that you want to rate the employee on. So it could be 0 to 5, 0 to 10, 0 to 20. You can also not use a number scale and just use a word scale. So it would say satisfactory or exceeding expectations or stuff like that. So you can choose how you want to rate the employee based on that. You can weight the different criteria higher or lower. You can also add manager comments. So when the manager comes in to review the employee, they'll give them a rating. They can enter in their manager comments. And then once they complete the evaluation, they're going to send that over to the employee to review. The employee is then going to be able to review their eval and enter in any employee feedback that they would like to type in there, and then sign off on it. And so this module doesn't actually sync anything back to GP. All of these employee evaluations that are completed are going to be kept online for your records, and we are going to keep track of how an employee's performance has either improved or gone down throughout the years based on the different evaluations that they've signed off on. So you'd be able to see that on this chart here. And so that's everything within that package. The last package, I actually already went over most of it, and that's our onboarding package. So the onboarding package includes onboarding federal and state W-4s, I-9s, and HR documents, which is the custom documents. And so not only does it allow the employees, your new employees, to go through that onboarding process, but your ongoing or current employees would actually be able to make adjustments to those forms online here as well. Or if there's any custom documents that were not included in the onboarding process and they still need to fill them out, or if there's any optional documents like waiver forms for equipment. For instance, like we have a basketball hoop in the back here that we have to sign a waiver form if we want to use it. So if we ever wanted to use that hoop, we would just come into the document library, pull up that waiver form and sign off on it. And then we'd be able to use the basketball hoop. So we do keep a record of all of those signed documents on our website here. You'll be able to look up any employee and see what documents that they filled out online. And then you can also look at each document and see which employees have filled out that document. So you can get a bunch of different types of reports for that module. And then with the W-4s, the employee again can edit it at any time. The I-9, the first time that they fill it out, they shouldn't have to adjust it unless there's an error or something made on it, but it would allow them to fill out the I-9 on the page as well if they needed to. And that's pretty much everything in the onboarding module since I already went over it. The timesheets is a module that's purchased by itself. It's priced out a little bit differently than the other packages. All the other packages are priced out per employee. The timesheets and benefits modules are priced out in tiers. So the first tier is like 1 to 100 employees, and then it goes up to 101 to 250, 250 to 500, 500 to 1,000, and it keeps going up from there. The timesheets module, I already mentioned the first 2 ways that employees can use to enter their time, the time clock on the home page, and then the time clock on the mobile app. We also have a manual entry option here. where the employee would be able to actually select the day that they're entering time for. So they'll select their code, they'll select the department like they normally would, and then they can select the day within the current pay period that they want to enter time for. They can select their start time, end time, if they took a lunch, when their lunch started, how long their lunch lasted, and then they would just hit save, and that's going to add those entries to the timesheet here. So the employee is going to be able to see all of their entries here. And I'm just going to clock out real quick. And once the employee's clocked out, they should be able to, they'll see the submit or sign and submit timesheet button. So at the end of every pay period, the employee is going to come into their timesheet, review all of their entries, make sure they look good. And then when they're ready to, they would hit sign and submit, and that's going to submit their timesheet for approval. Their supervisor should receive a notification letting them know they have timesheets awaiting approval. The supervisor just logs in and they'd be able to review all of the employees' entries. They can click on the entries to make edits to them if they need to. They can delete entries or add entries if they need to. And then they would approve the timesheet when they're ready to. Then when your payroll admin is ready to process payroll, they're going to log into the admin site. They're going to go over to the Timesheets Review Center, and there's a button there that says send all to payroll, and it'll show how many employees have been approved, how many are still in progress, and how many have been submitted for review. So once the payroll admin sees that most or all of the timesheets have been approved, they'll run through that wizard. It'll ask them, they can break down who or what groups of employees they want to sync back to GP, or they can sync all the approved timesheets in all at the same time. And then once they select all that, it'll push those time entries into GP and create a batch in GP that you would just process normally. And the way that it creates that batch is when an employee is selecting their time code, when they're clocking in and out, all of those time codes are mapped to pay codes that you already have set up in GP. So when it's syncing back to GP, it's actually creating that batch using your pay codes. All right, there was one other option that we have for the timesheet module. That's our time clock kiosk. It's an application that can be installed on any Windows computer, and it's typically used for your employees that don't like sit at a desk all the time and aren't sitting in front of a computer. They would just come into this workstation, punch in their PIN number and the last four of their social. It'll allow them to clock in, and then they'll do the same thing to clock out, and it's going to sync all of their time entries up to the Greenshades site. And obviously those employees probably aren't going to have access to the sites at all times, or they're not going to be able to submit their timesheets. So the supervisor does have the ability to go in and submit the employee's timesheet on behalf of them, and then go through the approval process and approve that. All right. So that is the timesheets module. Some other features of that, we're going to track overtime. We also have the capabilities of tracking shift differentials, so we could use that there. Now quickly, the benefits module does have quite a bit that's involved in it, but the basic idea is it allows your employees to go through an online benefits enrollment process, so they can see all the benefits that they're eligible for and go through open enrollments or go through a new hire enrollment or submit a qualifying life event for approval. And they can pick and choose what benefits they want to enroll in. They can add their dependents if they want to. They can choose what plan levels they want. They're going to be able to see how much they're going to be deducted per paycheck or monthly, however you have it set up. So it's going to keep track of all that. Anytime that the employee makes adjustments here or goes through open enrollment, it does require approval before it actually syncs back to GP, but once approved, it will sync back to GP and update their benefit and deduction codes in GP for you. So you're not going to have to go in there and manually update that. You will be able to generate an enrollment report that you can send over to your provider manually. It's a very simple process on the admin side. Once open enrollment completes, or if someone submits a qualifying life event and you need to generate that enrollment report, you just log into the admin site and really click a button, and it's going to create that report in the correct format, and then you would take that report and send it over to your provider however they like to receive it. We also have the ability to set up EDI feeds for health, vision, and dental providers that accept an EDI feed. And in those scenarios, it would automatically sync changes over to the provider as often as you have it scheduled to. And that does require some setup during the implementation process, of course, but once we have it set up, we'd be able to automatically sync changes over to your providers for those 3 types of benefits. Now, we do support a lot of different types of benefits. We support health, vision, dental, flexible spending accounts, HSAs, life insurance, of course, 401k, gym memberships. So we support pretty much anything that you would offer your employees. You would be able to create that on here. With this module, you would also get ACA tracking. So we're going to track all of your ACA data throughout the year automatically. And then at the end of the year, when you're ready to create the 1095Cs, there is a button on the admin side that you would click, and basically you're just going to select the year and click create 1095Cs, and it'll create those 1095Cs using the data that the benefits module tracked throughout the year. And that's pretty much everything for benefits and pretty much everything on the employee portal. I know we have just a few more minutes here. I can quickly run through our payroll tax service. It's a very simple product and it's simple to use. It does a lot for you. The setup is what I guess takes more time really getting it all implemented. But once it's implemented, what it does is it automatically creates returns for you by pulling in data from the payroll transactions that we've synced up. Like for the portal that we're used to create your pay stubs and whatnot, we're going to use those payroll transactions as well to calculate your different returns that you need to file. So you can file your federal W-2s, your federal, state, and local W-2s, your SUTA, your 940, 941s, and your new hire reporting. So you can file all of those different types of reports through our payroll tax service site. It is going to automatically create those returns using that data. It'll give you a email notification letting you know when you have any returns or payments coming due. And when you need to, you'll just log into the website, come over to the tax service tab. And of course, this is the admin site. You'd come over to the tax service tab, come down here, and you'd be able to see any of the returns or payments that are due and when they're due. And if you ever need to file a return, you would just come in here, hit file return. It's going to calculate the totals for that return using the data that was pulled from those transactions. And it will give you those totals here in just a moment. And then if the totals look good, you would have a submit button at the bottom. Obviously, we have a few errors that we need to fix because this is our test site and we don't have it all set up to file because we don't need to. But it would it would give you totals here. If you need to make edits to any of the totals or any of the information like employees' addresses or any of that information, you can come in here, click here to edit this information. It's going to give you some of your employees' info here. You're going to export all of this information into an Excel document. And that Excel document is going to look something like this. And so you'd be able to make any adjustments that you need to this document. And then once you have that all updated, you're just going to go back to this page here and upload that document back in. And when you hit save and finish, it's going to recalculate the totals for that file using that new Excel document. And then if all that looks good, you would hit the submit button, and that submits that return directly to that agency. So you're not going to have to take that return, go out to the agency site and log in using your credentials. It's going to automatically submit that return directly from our website. And the way that we do that is during the implementation process, we're going to get all of your login credentials and configure it into our software. So essentially when it's hitting the submit, when you're hitting the submit button on here, it's actually going out, logging into the website and submitting the return on the agency sites in the background. So you're not going to see all that. When we hit back here, you can also submit payments using this module. So if you have any payments that are coming due, you'd be able to review those, and it's going to automatically calculate those payments and determine when their due date is. And you would, of course, get a notification when they're coming due. You just come in here, hit Pay Now. It's going to pull up the payment screen, and you'd be able to verify the payment total and then select the bank account that you want to submit the payment from, and it will actually submit that payment directly to that agency using whichever bank account you selected. So you are going to save your bank account information on the website, but we don't actually touch any of your money. The payment information gets inputted directly onto the agency site, and then the payment goes directly from your bank to the agency. If we scroll down here, we have our historical returns and payments, so you can go back and look at any totals for different returns, or you can confirm payments, and you can review any of that information down here if you need to. But that is pretty much everything for payroll tax service. We do support all 50 states, so if you have to file for any of the 50 states, we can definitely do so using our site here. And I think that is everything I wanted to run through today. So if there's any additional questions, I'll open it up here.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mark. Essentially what we're trying to do is make life easier for any of our payroll workers out there, anybody in the payroll department, try and make their life a little bit easier, automated some of the steps that they need to go through on a daily basis or a monthly or quarterly basis as well. So I do see there is one question, and I was waiting for this question to come in because we get it almost all the time, but if an employee leaves, can they still access any of their data from the employee portal?
Yes. So as long as they still have their W-2s or pay stubs or anything online and they haven't rolled off yet, the employee's still going to have access to the site to look at those. It does turn off access once that employee is marked as inactive. It will turn off access to some of the other modules, so they're not going to be able to like clock in and out or submit time off requests or stuff like that, but they'll be able to look at their pay stubs and W-2s if there's still any for them to see.
All right, very good. I think that's all the questions. So is there anything else you wanted to cover today? I know you covered a lot. I really appreciate it. I know our clients and those viewing the session will appreciate seeing all the hard work that Greenshades has put in over the years. So anything else on your end?
No, yeah, I think that's everything. If there's any additional questions or if you need any information from me, just let me know.
Okay, very good. So again, I want to thank Mark from Greenshades for joining us today. This is Michael Gummel from Paradigm Technology Consulting. If you do have any questions, you can reach out to us at sales@ptcllc.com or visit our website, www.ptcllc.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.